So you've looked at the factors now that will shift a supply or demand curve, and we see the impact that it has on price and quantity. Let's take a look at that graphically here as an extension to help you to understand this a little bit better. So let's start with an increase in demand. Now, for an increase in either demand or supply, we're going to see that our demand curve or our supply curve shift to the right. So we'll start off with an increase in demand, so our curve is going to shift to the right, so it's going to shift this way. Our demand curve now increases, so we have our new demand curve. We'll put a little prime up there. And then as a result, we get a new equilibrium. So we'll compare it to the original equilibrium. We'll read across. There's our original equilibrium price and quantity. And now we have our new equilibrium price and quantity. And in both cases, we see that price has increased and quantity has increased. So with an increase in demand, price goes up, quantity goes up. Let's take a look now at what a decrease in demand looks like graphically. So let's say our product is discovered to cause cancer. That's going to cause a shift in tastes and preferences. People are not going to want the product to the same extent they did before, and as a result, the demand will decrease. So a decrease in demand or a decrease in supply are both leftward shifts on our graph. So we're going to see our curve now shift to the left. It's going to move this way. And so we're going to have a new demand curve. And we are going to compare it with our original equilibrium. So there's our new demand curve. Now let's compare and see what happens. So at our original equilibrium price and our original equilibrium quantity, and now we have our new equilibrium price, because remember we're going to take our new demand curve and compare it with our existing or previous supply curve. And what we see is that the price falls and the quantity drops. And you kind of expect that. If our product is discovered to cause cancer, people aren't going to buy it as much, and so to try to get rid of it, the seller is probably going to have to put it on sale to sell more of that product. So, a decrease in demand. Alright, now let's take a look at an increase in supply and see what that looks like on our graph. So just like an increase in demand where we saw our curve shift to the right, an increase in supply also shifts to the right. So we're going to see our supply curve, and it's going to look a little weird here. This is the one students don't quite like, because the curve looks like it's moving down. However, we'll see what happens. So we're going to see our new supply curve shifts to the right. Supply, a little prime there. And we're going to compare it with our original equilibrium price and quantity. So there's our original quantity, our original equilibrium price, and now we're going to look at our new supply curve with our existing demand curve. And we might see an increase in supply. Let's say there was an improvement in technology that suddenly makes producing our product more efficient, and so sellers are willing to supply more of it for a given price. And so what we see is that our price falls and our quantity increases. Now let's take a look and see if we can explain how this movement to the right is an increase in supply. So all we're going to look at here is for a given price. Okay, let's pick a new price up here. And all I'm going to do is draw a cross and compare. At this price, we would originally be willing to sell this many. However, now at my new supply curve, you can see suddenly there's a much greater quantity available for sale. So that's why, even though it looks like it's shifting down, it's an increase in supply. And once again, when we have an increase in supply, we see the price falls and the quantity increases. All right, let's take a look now at a decrease in supply. And this actually goes back all the way to the beginning of this lesson where we talked about apple prices increasing. So let's say there was a frost, it wiped out our apple crop, and the supply decreases. Well, what will that look like on our graph? Well, what we're going to see, once again, just like our demand curve, when it decreased, it shifted to the left. We're going to see our supply curve also shift to the left. And that's going to shift upwards. However, this is a decrease in supply. So here's our new supply curve. Supply, we'll put a little prime on it. And we're going to compare that again to our original equilibrium price and quantity. So here is our original equilibrium price and our original equilibrium quantity. And here is our new equilibrium price and our new equilibrium quantity. And so we can see that quantity has decreased and price has increased. So the price has gone up on our apples because there are fewer of them around and the quantity sold decreases. And so that is a decrease in supply. And those are what our 4 different types of shifts look like on a graph. And I hope that helps you to understand things maybe just a little bit better.